Hey everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. And, there's another song. You know what this song is? Huh? Yeah, you know what this song is. I'm not going to have a contest on this one. I already sent out one t-shirt for the last contest. Apparently, it was too easy. But, it's November. It's No Shave November. But you know what? I shave every day. I don't give a shit. Oh, I love this song anyway. Let's just listen to it. Maybe, you know what? You guys would love it if I just didn't do any promos for any of my sponsors and just played a Bob Seger song and then started the podcast. Not going to happen, but just telling you. I gave it some thought. But for the rest of you who don't stop or try to hit the skip button, you're going to have to listen to this because of my Patreon patrons and my sponsors. This show is moving in the right direction. It's going to keep getting better. In fact, this episode coming up, I asked a lot of people to write me questions when I got to go over to Black Creek Kennel, Justin McGrail's place, and we had a stack of questions, and every time that guy answers a question, every time, I think like I know what he's going to say, but he puts another spin on it that's just, Artie, please, I'm recording, puts another spin on it that just makes me go like, like one of those aha moments, like, yeah, no, nah, I see what you're saying. You know, I'm glad I did this podcast in the first place just so I could get these one-on-one interviews with Justin, even if they're not all my questions, they're all listeners' questions. It applies to everybody. This is one you're probably going to listen to a couple times. Hope you enjoy it. But, now you have to put up with this. I'll be fast. Patreon patrons, you rock. Every week I see another one come through. And at that rate, in another 5 or 8 years, I will be able to just not have to go to work. And between Social Security and my Patreon patrons, I'm going to be set. The podcast will come forever. I'll be sitting around here with bad knees and just hunting these goofy long-eared Broncos and keep finding more people to... Oh, please, Artie, stop it. Artie, knock it off. I'm serious. She's arguing with Miller through the gate because I put them both away. Anyway, so Patreon patrons, I love you very much. Purina, best dog food in the land. Gunner Kennels, there is not a better kennel out there. You know it. I won't go into all the facts that you spend all this money on a dog, a truck, a gun, and I'll bet you most of you spend more money in shotgun shells than you spend on a truck kennel. That's all I'm saying. Read between the lines. Dogtra collars. You're not going to find a better collar. In fact, you're going to hear Justin mention something about one of their collars in one of his answers to one of our listeners. So, you know, if Justin likes it and use it, I'm telling you, you're not going to go wrong with Dogtra collar. Beretta shotguns, I'm still waiting. I sent an email today. I haven't seen it. I'm dying to get this A400. Start shooting it, do some goose, some waterfowl. I still got time to do it. I'm going to go to Arkansas hopefully here in December. I cannot wait. You know, if you're not ready for a Beretta, well, you know, you're probably not ready for a gunner kennel either, you know. But when you're ready to step up, really look like you know what you're doing, because it always helps to look like you know what you're doing, even if you don't. You know, you walk out there with a $69 shotgun and a $59 dog crate, I bet your dog ain't that good. On the other hand, it might be way better than mine, seriously. Orion coolers. I did. I got the stink out of my cooler. I'll be happy to know it is not made of some kind of a material that would absorb and permanently smell. Because I've had a cooler like that, and I've had other items. It's like you cannot get the stink out of it. So on top of the bottle openers, the tie-down straps, the handles, the latches, cleans up nice. No residue, no stink. I locked it back up, sealed it, opened it up a couple days later. It was in a warm room. Did not stink. Thank goodness. I was glad to see that. Subscribe, rate, and review to the podcast. Subscribe on the website, thehuntingdogpodcast.com. Please get that done. You guys kind of slacked off there. It was coming in a pretty steady stream. We need more subscribers. People look at that. Sponsors look at that. I don't sell your list to anybody. You will be in 2018. We're going to be sending more stuff out to you. We just sent you, everybody, a thing on the farm bill. I hope some of you, I know only a few percent are going to do it, but if a few percent of all the listeners I have write to the congressman or look at that email I sent you about the 2018 farm bill, we're going to get more CRP land And more CRP, what's good for the birds are good for the herds, and it's good for everybody, not just hunters. So pay attention to that. But you do, and go to iTunes, rate and review it. We got a good standing. Of course, there's not a lot of not a lot of dog podcasts out there that have anything to do with hunting. But I'll tell you what, we're number one when it comes to hunting dogs. But I want to keep that rating up there with just general hunting, and I need you guys to do it. I need you to go to iTunes, put a comment in. You could say one word: good, great, fair. Ron, Ron's the guests are great. Ron's a ding dong. I don't care what you write, but just give it a 5-star rating. And what else? The website. Okay, people, go to the website. This is how you can subscribe to the podcast. You can also subscribe through iTunes, Stitcher, and all the other ones. The store is open. I don't mention it a lot. I put it out on Facebook the other day. I've got T-shirts. I've got apparently I've got some larger friends than me. I'm working on some double X's. I apologize for not thinking that through. I don't know what I was doing, but I got a whole bunch of larges and extra larges. I think I even got some mediums. But you know what? I apologize. I'm gonna get the double X's. And but if you're looking for something for a gift, if you're looking for something to stuff in Artie's mouth, you can take a small Hunting Dog Podcast T-shirt and stuff it in there. Anyway, go to the store. If that's the way you want to show your support, that's as good as anything else. Love you guys, and here comes the episode with Justin. All right, everybody. Per requested, I'm back in Justin's, just your office.
This is
your kennel office.
Kennel office.
It needs a little bit more you haven't added anything here in a while.
I want to talk to my taxidermist. He's only about 3 years behind.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's all.
That's all?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to be a taxidermist. It sounds like it would have been a perfect profession. I procrastinate the shit out of things.
I've always figured they're self-employed and they love to hunt and fish, so...
that would make hard to pay attention to work, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You're not able to do that.
No.
So everybody, I don't know, it's probably the fourth time I think you've been on.
Yeah.
And it's always a big hit. Everybody loves the episodes. I don't know what they see in you, but obviously your reputation precedes your demeanor.
Must be.
Yeah, because if I just ran into you anywhere, you wouldn't even introduce yourself. Hi, you're like, you're not like, you don't advertise yourself.
No.
No, you're just very, very laid back.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe. But the better I get to know Justin, he actually did call me a double dumbass because I've managed to mess up another one of my Broncos. So he does have that side to him. So some of these answers you get, there may be. I want him to be as honest as can, and if he has to say, "Oh, for Pete's sakes, we covered this 2 episodes ago," but anyway, so everybody wrote in questions. A lot of people wrote in questions. I'm going to read them off to Justin. We'll do the best to get to them all, and if he wants to come back to any of them later. Maybe at the end we could expound on it or something. I'll put it on another stack.
Because a lot of questions lead to other stuff.
Yeah, there's going to be 2 or 3 here that I think are all tied in together.
Yeah.
All right, this one's from Joe, and he says, I have a 10-month-old Munsterlander, my first hunting dog. Haven't done any formal training. We've been working on heel, sit, etc. Now, would that be called formal training?
Yeah.
That's formal training.
Absolutely. They're not born knowing it.
Shouldn't say he hasn't started any formal training.
Sure.
I've been starting to take him out for pheasants a lot. He's definitely not gun shy. Runs toward the gun, not away from it. Retrieves down birds to hand. His pointing, as the season goes on, is getting weaker and weaker. At the beginning, he would point until I got within 3 or 4 feet or in front of him. He would break, which is normal. At that point,
sure.
We're not asking for anything more. He would flush the bird. I would shoot. He would retrieve. As time goes on, his point's getting weaker. Sometimes just a flash point. At times he will point, but his tail will be wagging. Other times he won't point at all. And it's just kind of like the wheels on the bus coming off.
Yeah.
So I've heard you say in the past that there's no substitute for wild birds. Do you think I should keep hunting them hard and fix the steadiness in the spring, or am I causing more harm than good?
Wow, that's actually a very well thought out question.
Yeah.
Because I have said, pour the wild birds to them, that they can't learn anything bad.
They can't catch one.
Can't catch one. But
But you might not be able to shoot one.
no, but the dog's probably working close enough to him that even with a brief point and then taking the bird out, he still has a shot. And he's probably shooting some birds, which a couple of them here and there when a puppy's just starting out is okay. But if he's, let's just say, we're third week in November now. He maybe was started on the preserves. Yeah. Who knows when? Right. So maybe the dog's had a couple of months of this. And it sounds to me like he's either been rewarded for, shooting birds that he's run in and put to flight, or is just plain old having fun doing it. So when I'm watching those young dogs,
it's not like he's lost his pointing instinct.
No, it's still there, but he just kind of thinks, okay, this works too. This is how we're playing the game.
And if he shot one in one of those instances,
sure, why wouldn't the dog do it again?
Right.
Yeah, of course he would. All is not lost, but if I see the points becoming shorter and shorter and shorter, and the dog's starting to intentionally go in there and push those birds up, it's probably time to pull the plug on that hunting.
Yeah.
Go build a solid whoa foundation. Yeah. Teach the dog to at least hold until you walk in and put the bird to flight.
Right.
And when you put a young dog through that, you actually quit shooting birds for him until you've achieved the desired level of steadiness.
So these are flyaway birds.
Yeah. Until you've got that dog holding point, consistently letting you walk in and flush the bird, and then you can resume shooting birds over him. So he may be to that point where if he continues to hunt the dog, you're maybe just making that job a little bit harder than it needs to be. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I always say, like, there's some dogs that just come out of the box and they're like, you think like, oh, I never did anything with my dog as long. And an average dog is steady to you flushing the bird. Mm-hmm. An average dog, a good dog that's. But like you said, if he got that reward, or the bird started moving, he started going after it a little bit, and his little pea brain, like you said, it worked once. Yeah. Well, and I hurried up and I got to the bird before my owner did, and he shot it for me. I could see where they'd get the guy in.
And there's a difference between a young dog when his nose is telling him that bird's not there anymore, and he's kind of trying to trail it and figure out which way it went. That's different than the dog flushing with gusto. Yeah, that's a good point. I know he's right there.
I think there is a question about the tracking dog coming up. Yeah. All right. Katie says, 18-month-old intact male has great recall everywhere but on birds. I have access to take him to 3 different places, and his recall is solid on a whistle. Mm-hmm. However, once he flushes a bird, his searching is nonstop. He will not come back to the whistle, to the e-collar on continuous. She didn't say or. I'm guessing she meant either. Yeah. It obviously just won't come back. I have to increase the setting until I make him cry before he will come back. Do I need to take him to more places with no birds, or just continue to work recall? Build my foundation stronger, ? Mm-hmm. Sounds like a lot of dogs are getting to some birds this year, at least.
Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah. So it's not an uncommon situation to be in. Yeah. And the fact that dog blows her off after a bird contact is, I kind of think, a good thing. That dog, until you train for it, that dog that'll just wheel right around and come to you right after he's just been into a bird, maybe he doesn't have as much drive as I would like to see him.
So certainly got drive.
Yeah. That's good. But she's got to bridge that gap between, a recall without birds and in a hunting situation. Right. Yeah. So it sounds like, I think she's done some basic collar conditioning.
Sounds like
and she says she has to up the ante on the collar.
She knows that it's an adjustable frequency.
Yeah. A good bird to start that is probably homing pigeons, because they're not going to come back to the ground.
So that's guarantees no reward.
No, he's not going to catch a homing pigeon. He's not going to mark it down because they don't land until they get back to their loft. Right. And so there you can kind of do a modified recall where you can give him a little bit of chase, and then as the bird's really way out there, now reinforce your recall command instead of trying to pull a dog off of a bird that, a game bird that he sees sailing down is going to land right over there.
The possibility keeps looking more and more.
Well, and in today's world, it's not all the question that maybe he's been successful chasing those birds and finding them again.
Right.
Right. And so they,
Yeah, that reminds me of my old Zygon that, with the girls, I started taking him to preserves. He was always good to flush, and I never had him steady to, not Zygon's dog before him, Haskell. And I'd let him go after them preserve birds because I told the girls they hit him.
Yeah, he'd bring them back.
But that might not be the behavior she's looking for.
Yeah.
Because, those preserve birds will fly maybe twice.
Yeah.
I said, I think you hit him. No, Dad, I missed him. And I'd let him go. And he was rewarded time and time again for that.
Sure. So that's going to make it harder to teach him to come
Luckily,
off.
I never tried to take him anywhere. But
Yeah.
So
that could be the situation. And I wouldn't be overly concerned as long as a dog has a real strong drive for birds, which sounds like this dog does, and has had a long positive history with birds. A lot of people are, rightfully so, hesitant to go to those higher levels on the collar to correct that lack of obedience to the chase. But the reason that it can work done properly is the dog should know that correction was for blowing off a command that you've trained to
not for chasing the bird.
Not for chasing the bird. He's probably chased birds even at a younger age,
Sure.
and
we're all happy
it was all
about
good, and we're shooting birds. You're hunting the dog. He understands it wasn't for that bird. It's not something you'd want to do with a puppy just starting out on birds.
Right.
But once they have that strong, solid baseline, you've done your recall training. You're not going to do any harm there.
And it almost sounds like she's like, at that point, so frustrated, she's basically touching the collar off. He's not paying attention. He doesn't know what it's for. He's just running through it.
Yeah.
And doesn't have,
The one thing I wanted to double check too is the tightness on the collar, because I see some people with a collar that's too loose, and they say, oh, he doesn't respond to the low levels, he's being tough, he's this, whatever.
That's a good point.
And then you get up into the high end of those collars, and now there's enough oomph there to kind of make that jump and make it happen, so the dog's feeling nothing, and then whammo, lightning bolt correction. So just make sure that collar's snug enough, and that it is indeed.
I mean, I know what you're saying. Somebody always told, if you can still get 3 fingers or 4 fingers between the dog's neck and the collar, it's not too tight.
It depends on how fat your fingers are. I mean, I don't want to send anybody out there with a certain number of fingers, right?
Well, I mean, because people, well, you're right. People, I've seen that.
Way too loose.
Yeah.
And too low on the dog's neck, right?
It's got to be up high.
You want it right up behind their ears. That's the smallest part of the neck. If you put it down low on the neck, as that dog runs,
there's all kinds of flexibility.
All kinds of slop in there. So make sure it's up high on the neck and it's snug. And then I would really, because if she's struggling to find the right level that's strong enough that the dog respects, but not over, well, like she used the term, he cries, right? Nobody wants to make their dog cry, you know? So I would go to that, Dogtra has that rheostat where you can slowly dial up actually as you're holding, instead of just step 1, step 2, step 3, right? You could use that rheostat where you actually start at 0, hold the continuous down, give the recall command when the situation's right, the bird's gone, it's obviously not a shot bird, recall, and then you can slowly warm up on that rheostat until the dog peels off. As soon as the dog peels off, release the button.
Release it.
So that will help you find no stair-step increments, because sometimes you'd be surprised, like, okay, level whatever isn't quite enough, but the next one is kind of more than you want in some collars. So
because we rarely ever put them on ourselves and check all the levels.
And it really doesn't matter what it feels like to us.
That's true.
Because that's not what your dog feels. I see some dogs where level 1 is woo, and other dogs, they don't even feel level 1.
Right.
So, it's all about the individual dog.
All right. Ron Tufford. That's the first Ron's ever wrote me. Ron and Justin. I have a 10-month-old female GSP. She's coming along nicely. Great house dog. Solid field work. No gun shyness. Holding to shot. And loving the retrieve. Can I buy her?
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Oh, I see where he's going. I'm feeling a little spoiled at how well she's advancing, and I have been thinking about another pup, maybe just after her 1 year mark. What are the issues, good and bad, with a new pup in this situation, and the reasonable expectations of socialization and training? I hate to stop my dog's progress, but would love to have 2 solid dogs come next fall.
Sure.
Wouldn't everybody?
You gotta, if you're gonna do any amount of hunting, a 2 is like a minimum, right?
Right.
That's bare minimum.
Right.
I know he thinks he's all done with this dog.
Well,
but
like
the fact is, it's 10 months
he feels
old.
real blessed.
Yeah, he is he should be blessed.
Yeah.
At 10 months old, if it's doing all of that.
Yeah.
But be prepared for between season 1 and season 2, having to go back.
Yeah.
Probably solidify some things with more training. And, I have had dogs that if the genetics were there, the dog was a real kind of early bloomer, and then you really cemented that in with training, and everything's there.
It's not to say there isn't been a 10-month-old like that, but
there certainly has. But the trap is always what the dog is doing naturally happens to coincide with what we want it to do. Yeah. And he's not necessarily been taught that's how it has to do it.
Yeah. So
unless the dog's been thoroughly trained and taught to be steady, which it could easily have been done by that age,
right.
I'm not saying he didn't do that, but don't be surprised if between season 1 and season 2 that there is a little bit more work to do. Right. I don't know, this guy could have all the time in the world, and raising a puppy on top of that would be no problem. The one thing I caution people against, getting them that close together. Mm-hmm. If he is strictly a 2-dog family, he needs to be aware that he could see the day where all of a sudden he has a 13 and a 14-year-old dog, neither of which may be huntable.
I didn't think that's where you were going.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that.
I think that's where
you get them that tight together, unless you can have 3 or 4.
Right.
So when these dogs are 5 and 6 or 6 and 7, get something else. But if his household has a cap of 2 dogs, many people do.
Yours does.
Yeah, but I have 2 house dog rule.
You're married to a veterinarian.
Right. Yep, we have a 2 house dog rule. But fortunately, I have others that can stay here at the kennels. But a lot of households, that's the deal. And so if you get them a year apart, you easily could find yourself with 2 retired or semi-retired dogs.
That's a good point.
And then what do? You got to wait.
Yeah. That's I would. Here's the angle I thought you were going at, but I think that's a better dilemma, because I never thought of it, because I've always got a couple 3 years apart, and I've always got old and young dogs. Yeah. So I thought, and I've seen the mistake because of what happened with my 2 dogs last spring. I've got Gretchen and Miller to the same age.
Right.
Terrible combination. When I'm not watching, I tell you, they chew the collars off each other. Mm-hmm. They're both the same age, bratty kids.
Yeah.
So he brings in a new puppy. And does he know enough to not say, like, well, good, I got this dog I was really lucky with. She's going to help train this other dog.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, or the other dog gets to be competitive. And it's like, hey, where's my 40 acres and a mule? Well, you don't love me no more.
Yeah.
Because dogs can get weird like that when you bring another dog into the house. So, yeah, without knowing his house situation, his dog cap, I guess you can get away with it. That's your answer.
Yeah.
Just remember, bottom line, you're going to have 2 geriatric dogs in 13 years.
You could. Yes.
All right. Doug Layton says, my golden retriever marks well, retrieves aggressively, brings the bird bumper to heel, and then will duck his head and avoid giving it to me.
Yeah.
How could I have avoided this bad habit? How do I break it? So I don't have a young dog, but still like to correct this and not make the same mistake on a future dog. Mm-hmm. So the dog just keeps faking bobbing and weaving.
You've probably seen that before. I've seen it.
You've seen it in utility tests a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
They want to hang on to it. They want it. They love having that thing. Right. Those are the kind of dogs, that would carry stuff around in the yard for hours. They just love that, and they don't want to give it up. The cure is actually kind of the same as the preventative. And so a lot of times, taking an object from a dog immediately when they come to you can cause this. It's kind of, so he definitely has his dog obedience trained very well. It'll come to heel, sit, right.
Yeah.
So these are the same dogs that without that level of training will kind of parade around you with an object. But this dog's trained well enough, he can't do that.
His
the guy
version
can
of
call
parading
him,
is just
trying to keep it just a little bit longer.
like holding something away from a little kid.
Right.
Nope, can't have it.
Yeah, but this dog knows that he has to come when he says come or here, and he has to
Otherwise
come to
he'd be out dinking around
Otherwise he'd
somewhere
be
else.
parading, right.
Yeah.
So he's almost there. And what I do is you have to neutralize the approach of his hand that's triggering this. As the dog sees the hand
Right, he's
coming
not
to
bobbing
take the object,
20 yards away with it.
No, right. He's just holding it away. So you have to kind of neutralize that. Then as the hand comes towards the dog, it doesn't take the dummy. Just kind of pet him on top of the head, pet him under his chin, actually touch the object, but don't take it from him. And then I'll heel the dog away.
Okay.
Have him healed. Still carrying it.
Still carrying it.
Sit. Pet him again. Don't take the object. Touch the object. You just have to desensitize that approach of the hand.
Because he probably sits there, like, I can picture what you're saying. He probably sits there and looks at him with the bird.
Yeah.
And once that hand comes out,
yeah. And
I'll still buy your dog, too.
I was going to say, if that's the worst thing he's got going on,
Right.
he's lucky. That's a fantastic dog.
And when he talks about avoiding on a future dog,
Yeah.
I know, I will say, the only thing I feel somewhat qualified in the dog training world is I can force break a dog or do a good hold and carry version of force breaking, you know, not maybe take him to pick up my car keys all the time. But just what you said, when I'm starting to do the hold and carry, the hold part of the force fetch, I tap it, I pet him, I distract him. It's a long time before I ever take it out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And just what you said with the duck, if he's like, man, well, what do you got in your mouth? And he's not making it a thing. That makes total sense.
Well, and
he could clean it up on his next dog by.
Yeah, if this dog is in the latter half of his career and he's obviously getting along just fine with it, it's probably.
Maybe his buddies are making fun of him in a duck blind.
No, see, a lot of people, they'll have one thing, and even though it's not a big thing, all his buddies are probably jealous of this dog, but it drives him crazy, right?
Jealous? Yeah, but like, what else can we pick on him about? His dog's great.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Who is this? I can understand.
But when you do that trained retrieve with a dog, that can be the answer for that too, because now you're in control of that object.
Right.
It's theirs when you say they can take it and have to take it, and it's yours when you say to give it up.
Hey, let me digress off of that because it's about the retrieve question. I have. You see the upper level test where the dogs come in and they turn around and sit by the handler's side and they're very patient about holding the bird and everything. In a hunting application, we never do that. Dog comes in, I get the bird, it goes in my vest, let's look for another bird.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any negative side to that? Or is it because it's a testing situation that the dog says, oh, you're going to make me hold it that long and sit? I mean, do you make your dogs out in the field? I know you don't go out into testing world with them, but do you just take a retrieve as long as it's there out of the mouth and you make them do sit and turn and...
Depends on, some of my dogs have had the trained retrieve and some I'm running on a natural retrieve. So a natural retrieve, you take what you get. You can't do anything different.
Right.
And you recover the bird and that's that.
Yeah.
If it's a trained retrieve, you should enforce whatever level you taught in training.
Right.
You
don't think it takes anything out of the dog?
No.
No.
I
I just always thought they're like, oh, for God's sakes, just take this bird out of my mouth and let me go find another one.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm just jealous of that guy whose dog turns and sits. And your little cocker today, did you teach it to sit on retrieve? Or did he just do that?
No, I did. Yeah. And she knows...
because you said she's not force broke. She's a natural retriever.
She's a natural retriever.
Everybody, you gotta see this dog, Mimi.
Mamie.
So Justin asked me today when we were out with Gretchen. He says, "Have you ever seen a cocker work?" Because he keeps hearing me talk about wanting a cocker. This was the most 20 minutes of fun I had watching a dog work, and I judged about a half a dozen tests this year.
Yeah.
That dog was awesome.
Yeah.
Not force broke.
No.
Brought quail back to you.
Yeah. They're just fun.
God.
They're fun to watch.
And when she came up with that quail, she just sat. She sat. I mean, like you said, a little head bobbing, but you said she's fine. She doesn't do nothing wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I got to get one of them little dogs.
Yeah.
We got to get one of them. Sorry about that digression, Doug and everybody else, but Had to throw that in. All right. First of all, I want to say thanks, podcast. Blah, blah, blah. This is from Tim. Can't see his last name. Have a German wire hair pointer. Oh, boy. I might have to take this question. She is just over 5 months old. I won't say where she's at. Currently at a kennel. 5 months old. Receiving her 2-week bird and gun intro. Mm-hmm. My last dog, I trained myself, but I wanted to see what it's like to send a dog away. I've heard great things about this particular kennel, so I figured out while I'm out deer hunting, it would be a great time. Happy with the dog's progression at home. She's doing well. I have her on live birds, and her drive and instinct is insane. These things make me happy. I should have reread this. Here's where we're getting to. This is an odd one. It seems every time I pet her at home, she pees. This happens when others pet her as well. Mm-hmm. Usually, if someone comes to the door, she'll get excited, run over, then she pees. I'm hoping this changes when she matures, but it seems to be getting onto a bigger issue. With me, it's even worse. I can hardly acknowledge her in the house without her peeing. There's just a whole lot of stuff here. Yeah. In the field, she's a champ. She's trained well. She behaves. When she comes inside, it's a different story. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, yeah. It's a genetic trait. It's submissive wetting, submissive urination. Okay. Some people, when they see that, they think, oh, the dog got so excited he couldn't hold it. No, that's a sign of submission.
Is it?
Yeah, that's a genetic trait. Now, the dog very well may outgrow that.
Yeah.
All you can really do is try and identify what the dog's triggers are and avoid those. And the one that, petting, because that's a very dominating thing to a 5-month-old dog. Here's a 6-foot or whatever human being leaning over them and reaching towards them. Right. That's when they'll squat and pee like that. Yeah. So you kind of have to tap dance around it for the time being and hope that as the dog grows up and gains confidence, there's another
5 months old too. It's young.
It's a baby. It's an absolute baby. The other thing you could do once you identify those triggers, because you have certain things that have to be done every day with the dog, going in and out of the house, in and out of crates. Right. You got to do the best you can, to try and avoid the situations that cause it.
Right.
But the other thing I would do is, when everybody thinks of training tables, all they think of is the trained retrieve. Here's a case for a training table. Now you've got the dog up on your level, so you're not hovering over it and conditioning that dog to your touch without triggering that submissive wetting. Yeah. That could be a good thing, but hopefully this offers him a little encouragement. It's very rare for that to be permanent in a dog. Yeah. I have seen it, but it's really rare.
Yeah.
I don't want him to think it'll be gone by 6 months, but I would be shocked if a year from now or a year and a half from now the dog is still doing it.
Yeah. Do you take young dogs like that for a little 2-week thing?
Little shorties. Sometimes that's as young as you would ever want to do it. If it's a real bold, outgoing puppy, as long as... Because these dogs, that's a good age to start getting them some field time and exposure to birds and wake up those instincts. It's all fun puppy stuff, as long as owners realize this is development of instinct more than anything, not super rigid control command type work at that age. Yeah. But if he can't give it to him, it's, I would hate for that dog to all of a sudden, a month from now, we get dumped on with snow. And now he can't get that dog in the field or on any birds until March or whenever. I don't know where he lives, But thinking Michigan, maybe he's down south and he can do it all winter. But in either case,
we'll have to just give away that possibility. We don't care.
Yeah,
we can only tell you what we know. Michigan.
That's right. Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, so he's going to get buried in the snow at some point. So better now than never.
All right, Garrett Thomas. Here's a question for you and Justin. Might want to talk about it on your next episode. Annie is almost 1 now. I am hunting pheasants with her several times a week. I'm killing lots of birds. She only points about 1/3 of the birds she finds. It's kind of related a little bit to that first one. Yeah. She likes to get on their track and then take them out, or sometimes she just randomly bumps them. Well, you can't worry about a random bump if it's truly a bump.
Yeah.
When I take her to train with quails and pigeons in a trap or on the ground, she points like a tramp.
Yep.
but there's a distinct difference in her demeanor in training versus hunting.
Sure.
She is crazed bird dog when hunting. I like how she handles except when she gets birdie, and she's often out of control. A little like Katie's dog, it sounds like. In training, she has less desire, but I can control her on birds a lot better. I try to create live scenarios the best I can, but she knows the difference.
Sure.
My question, should I keep hunting and try to fix this on... Let her fix this on her own? I don't know if dogs can actually fix things on their own. Or could I be that just solidifying bad habits and stick to training, or a mixture of both? And this is a really dumb question at the end, but Garrett, I'm throwing you under the bus. Should I call the breeder and cuss him out? But pheasant hunting is new to me, and I've always done grouse hunting. So it sounds like it's just track and take. That's pretty normal. I mean,
it's very normal, and
pheasants
wonder, and I guess it shouldn't really. I wonder if he's hunting wild pheasants or preserved pheasants.
I'm guessing wild.
If he's hunting wild pheasants and his dog's getting a third of them pointed, he should call his breeder and say thank you. Yeah, because that's very normal. So dogs can't smell 360 degrees, and when you're working wild birds,
Especially
I've said it before on your podcast. Something's trying to kill them every single day of their lives. So they're not going to let a dog run right up to him. Now, he said, pigeons and quail are good. Well, in a pigeon quail off-season training scenario, everything is micromanaged to have a certain outcome. When you turn a dog loose on a real bird hunt, that's not the case. And even the best of dogs, seasoned dogs, you're going to have some wild flush birds. They just didn't have the opportunity to point them. They didn't know they were there until the bird was in the air. And then on running pheasants, there's a learning curve for dogs to learn how to follow those moving birds and get them pointed without putting them to flight. And again, the best of them aren't 100%. But the puppies, when they get on a real bad runner, you can almost count on that bird ending up. That bird's going to end up in the air way more than it's
how does that puppy keep its composure?
Exactly. And they don't know yet, I better slow down, I'm getting close. That takes hundreds of pheasants, right? To really, and some maturity. And the ability to maintain their mental composure in that situation. So young dogs have a hard time with that last component because they get so revved up. And there is a genetic component at play there too. Some dogs are a lot cooler in the heat of battle. They can stay more composed.
You've seen that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can watch the way young dogs point birds, and some dogs are really edgy on point. They're just any little leaf blows by and the wheels are going to come off, right? And other dogs, there's intensity there, but they're very, I don't want to say calm, but they're very collected. My mentor, Jim at Pine Hill, who I apprenticed with, he always used to call that fighter pilot nerves. And that's exactly what it is. There's a focused intensity there, but everything is harnessed and channeled and like that. And that's, some dogs have it, some don't. You can't teach it. But it takes most dogs many seasons to be able to handle running pheasants, and that's why so many guys prefer flushers.
That's what we're looking for.
Get them in the air, right?
Now, is there any point? I mean, not to steer the bus in any different direction. If he's pretty sure he's starting to learn that dog's demeanor, he's like, I think we got another runner here. Is there anything he could do in that, or would you have to do that? It's hard to make a pheasant run in a training situation. Or
you would just have to use pheasants.
Just have to use pheasants.
Yeah, use pheasants. And
would you ever do any correction to the dog on it? Because is he gonna? You'd be correcting him for tracking, which could be a crippled bird too. So you wouldn't want to do any correction on that, would you?
No. The only thing I can do to help a dog out in that situation is if it looks, again, this kind of ties into an earlier one, if I think that dog's having a little too much fun flushing them, running them up and flushing them, a higher tier of training between season 1 and season 2 is going to be stop to flush. So we're taking away the reward of an uncontrolled bird chase, right? And so that's one thing I found that can help instill a little bit of caution. And by then the dogs also should be putting it together that, hey, the name of this game here is to get them pointed, right? If I don't get them pointed,
I got to sit and watch them walk away.
Yeah, watch them fly off.
Right.
Yeah,
so
they don't get to have that fun of a crazy chase. So that's something that I would set as a training goal for the dog between season 1 and season 2. For now, I just keep hunting the dog.
Yeah.
It sounds like
it's not hurting anything.
No, it sounds like
if these are wild pheasants.
Yeah.
He's just probably in a pressured area that these birds are. You're just not getting them. And there are not a lot of young birds there this year. Maybe if he's in the Dakotas.
Sure.
You're getting a bunch of year-and-a-half-old
crafty
roosters.
old birds.
Crafty
and
old roosters.
It sounds like that dog's doing quite well.
Yeah, year-old.
Yeah.
That's number 3 dog I'd like to
I was gonna say,
make an offer on.
Pretty promising crop of youngsters.
Yeah, I think we got it. Jason Pope writes, I have a question for your upcoming show with Justin McGrail. I have a 15-month-old female wire hair, so this is her second season. No real training other than what I learned from your show and a book or two. So one of my many cases is after the shot, when she finds a dead or crippled bird, she will sometimes point it again. Mm-hmm. I have created my own problem by telling her to get it, so now she's taking birds out a lot more often because she thinks it's okay because she thinks it's okay when she can see it. Usually they can't see a wild bird.
No.
So
I mean, it happens, but it's rare.
He might be being fooled by what he thought he saw. But there's nothing wrong with the command, get it.
No. And if you don't release the dog, then it should stay put.
Yeah.
Yeah. 15 months old, maybe, I mean, I don't know if that I would consider this a second season. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It was a baby.
It's been around for 2 seasons.
It's been around, right.
Hasn't had 2 mature years.
So I would still consider this the dog's puppy season.
Yeah. And NAVDA, up to 16 months, they run a puppy test.
Still definitely a puppy.
Yeah.
Dogs that have really strong pointing instincts, it's not uncommon for them to point dead. Yeah. And one thing that I do, I'm not saying it's right or wrong or better than any other way, it just makes sense to me, is instead of, and when I see it, is when there's either been a little delay between when the bird was shot and when the dog finds it. Say, like oftentimes in the grouse woods,
could be a
lot of cover. The dog didn't see the bird at all. Yep. We got to kind of handle the dog in there, and then they smell it and point again.
Right.
And so when that's the situation, they didn't mark the fall, it took a few minutes or whatever. Instead of encourage that dog to break point and grab it, even though I know it's dead, I'll go in there, and if the dog continues to hold, okay, I'm not going to say a word. I'm going to pick the bird up and toss it to him. Dead bird, attaboy. Good job. Got him. Yeah. Instead of encourage a young dog when they hit that hot, fresh scent and lock up. Right. Because I could see he's worried about the confusion there. Yeah.
I've seen my older dogs, point dead, but they don't point very long, and then they just pick it up.
Right. There is a difference in scent between a live bird and a dead bird, even though he's only been dead for 60 seconds.
Right. There's that crippled bird sometimes that's just winged, and the dogs won't break point because they're still smelling that bird breathing, and, and I've seen it where I've got to go in and get the bird, because the dog's like, what are you doing? Yeah. This bird's sitting right in front of me.
And it sounds like, too, so now his dog is breaking point on some unshot birds.
And he thinks it's because he said, get it.
Right. Well, I doubt he's walking up to a point and saying, get it. The dog's just anticipating that, maybe. So that can be remedied with some more formal steadiness work. And just trying to get a better whoa command until released. And if he doesn't release the dog, it should stay put. And the dog will figure out the dead bird thing on its own. They keep hunting the dog. Right. And it'll start to recognize the situations where, okay, this bird is to be recovered. Right. Versus
just like we watched Gretchen out here. She pointed 4 or 5 different birds. Yeah. But also pointed 4 or 5 other spots that the birds weren't. Yep. She hasn't sorted all that out. Right. But you saw her eventually come off of them.
Yeah, and that's where we want that dog.
They'll do the same with they'll do the same with the dead bird. Pretty soon they're just in there. They're going there. They're not worried about busting a bird. They know it's dead.
They know it's dead. They know it from not only what their nose is telling them, but
they smell blood.
They can be, or the context of the situation, right?
Right.
They
The
know
shot.
we just had a bird contact,
Right.
guns, bird came down, we're looking.
What's
to
the
recover
chance
it
that this
down.
grouse fell on top of a sitting
Yeah,
grouse?
yeah. I've seen it happen with birds, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
So they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Keep hunting. That's the
hunting.
homework everybody likes to
Right.
get. Keep hunting.
All right. Corey says, Ron, when waterfowling, one bird goes down, the dog goes out to retrieve that bird just fine. Problem occurs when another shot is made while the dog is on the retrieve. The dog will abandon the first retrieve and look for the second bird down. Well, I can see that happening.
Sure.
It's more enticing. It's bird just got knocked out of the sky in front of him. How do you remedy that?
You got trained for it.
Right.
Yeah.
So the dog's coming back in the water with a duck. Mm-hmm. So you got to make sure, no matter what happens, you don't lose that. Because he could lose that other one. You could lose two birds.
Sure.
So what's the deal?
Well, you've got to not so for this dog.
Not shoot this.
No. I mean,
No, that would be my answer.
right. Don't shoot the second one until you recover the first one.
Very
Sure.
simple, Corey.
Yeah.
You should have just called me.
There's always more than one solution, but the training fix there is, a gun going off is not a reason that the dog can abandon his work. Right. And so this guy is probably just going with the flow of the dog's genetics, right? And so he can't make the dog go pick up that first bird when he bails on it.
Right.
So if he really wants to take this dog to a high level of retriever work, the dog's going to have to go through the trained retriever, the force fetch program, so that he can stop the dog when it bails on a retrieve and make him complete it.
Right.
And then, so a gunshot is a distraction. Another bird flying is a distraction.
Right.
You're gradually stepping your way to another bird actually being shot during the course of the retrieve of the. Just like all dog training, you're going to add one component at a time.
In this case, one distraction.
One distraction at a time,
Component.
and work him through it.
Yeah.
But he really is at the right now, and maybe he does have the trained retrieve in place. I don't know.
Yeah.
How old is the dog again? Did he say?
He didn't say. He just said.
Okay.
When waterfowling, one bird goes down.
Yeah.
Dog is fine on that retrieve. Problem occurs when another shot is made. The dog will abandon the first retrieve and look for the second bird down.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of retriever drills that are designed to instill control. And even things that go against the dog's genetics. Of course he wants to go. He's got a dead one in his mouth, and here comes this other one cartwheeling out of the sky.
That's a lot
the
more
very
enticing.
nature of the dog is
Right.
exactly. It's way more enticing.
Yeah.
So you need to control those instincts through training in a structured way. But the time to do that is in the off season with training,
And that all goes on the
scenarios.
ground,
That's
and
all
you
on
do
the
that all
ground
on the
at
ground.
first. If he's sitting in his blind in a pair of waders and decoys and ducks flying and buddies, that's not the time to try and teach
You're not
him.
gonna fix
That's graduation work there. Yeah.
High level retriever work.
Yep.
Get on it. Daryl Yeager. Here on. Daryl. I thought it was Darren. My name is Daryl. I'm from South Central Pennsylvania. I have a 10-week-old German Shorthair puppy.
10 weeks.
10 weeks. All right. I want you to love that puppy. Mm-hmm. Take it to PetSmart. Walk it around. Have it meet people. No. My question is, what expectations and milestones should a bird dog owner have in the first 6 months of having a puppy? And when do you feel the right time to start more obedience is? And then just kind of a 3-part question, but I don't know if I think you'll answer it in the first 2. When should a person start noticing natural ability in their dog? Well, that is a different question. Like, it seems like he's not seeing 10 weeks.
Yeah.
You're not,
Well, some people that's just how they're geared. Like, they need a timeline.
Right.
They need goals.
I haven't seen my puppy do anything yet. It's 10 weeks old.
I don't know. Right.
And my buddy's puppy did.
Right. 10 weeks,
So-
baby. But I think this guy just is, for the future, he wants to know, because he said by 6 months. And first of all, there's not a mark on the calendar that says your dog should be pointing birds by this age.
Right.
You should be hunting your dog by this age.
Yeah.
Right now, he's very much in the window that it's all about socialization.
Yeah.
You know, housebreaking, crate training, rides in vehicles, new places all the time, new people, walks on leashes, loose walks in the field. You know, I'm huge on puppy walks every day. Where
with a check cord on.
Dragging a little tiny lightweight puppy check cord, right? That way they don't get into the whole keep away thing, or if they go to roll in some rotten whatever, you can get a hold of them and get them out of there.
You don't even have to touch the rotten
whatever. Don't even have to touch the rotten whatever. So at that age, I avoid birds and guns. That's going to come later. Don't worry about that. So many people seem to think that if he's going to be a hunting dog, we got to, get him birdie. He either was or he wasn't born to do that.
Right.
And I see that young of an introduction to birds, it's, there's risk of something maybe not going well. You're better off just to wait on that.
Right.
I had a guy last week tell me, it was an evaluation, so one of my standard issue questions, is any prior experience with birds or gunfire, and it was a 6-month-old short hair. Mm-hmm. And he says, well, the breeder did that. And I go, really? Well, yeah, when they were at 7, 8, we're still with their litter mates, they threw a live chucker in there and shot a cap gun. And I'm going, okay, well, that doesn't mean your dog's ready to shoot over with a shotgun. Okay, let's get that. And it really doesn't mean anything. But a lot of people, first dog, right? He didn't know any better. Yeah. Right. So you want to wait till that puppy's confident and bold to introduce live birds in the field. But don't have, it's good to have a plan. It's good to have goals, but don't have your timeline be the end all be all. It's all about what the dog's ready for when. And, he's got winter coming in Pennsylvania, so he'll be a little bit limited with what he can do.
Sure.
Really, this dog is going to be at a pretty nice age to start this spring. Any field work.
Yeah, it'd be 6 months old or 5 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So between now and then,
Tons of socialization.
And, I do recommend those group puppy classes once a week for people with puppies, and not that they're going to come out of that with a super obedient dog
or a diploma,
but what it does is again, good socialization, forces a person to once a week load that dog up, take him for a car ride to a new place. Around other people and other dogs, but in a structured way. Yeah. And if the instructor's any good, that person's going to learn how to just instill some good habits. Again, you're not going to have a perfectly trained 4-month-old dog, but you're going to learn a lot of things, and you're going to put some structure into that puppy's life, some daily stuff that you can be doing. That all, while it isn't, the purpose of those classes is not for, so-called hunting dog training, but it's still developing a good, well-rounded dog, which is going to pay off when he does go to the other stuff.
Acts better on a leash. When there's I know I've seen the people, they get in a group, in a circle, and those puppies start learning a little composure. Yeah. They're not,
Yep.
So,
and dogs need to learn how to learn. Yeah. So don't put it all off until they're older. Yeah. But I would, if I was this guy.
So there's your milestones. Get the dog out, socialization, try a group class.
Early puppy obedience.
Class.
Tons of socialization, and then spring would be the right time to start the field work. Introduction to birds and the gun.
You never really do that. Stuff. Depending on the dog, as a general statement. 6 months, you wouldn't bother much earlier than 6 months with a dog.
No, I've done it with 4-month-olds before that were...
your dog, your lines, or...
it's just a dog that has had tons of that daily running in the field and is physically very... No, not at all. Does it make a difference?
He's not going to be a better dog than the other dog.
Absolutely not. As a 3-year-old dog, is there a difference? No.
Of course there isn't. That's a good answer to that question. All right. First off, really enjoyed the podcast. Well, thank you. I've been binging on episodes. I have a GSP that will turn 3 in February. So we got an older dog here, a little bit older, still young. Mm-hmm. Out of the box, great dog, did great, max score on his NA test at 6 months of age, which I've seen short hairs do. They're pretty talented. Mm-hmm. They're good at pointing and tracking. To keep a long story short, an unfortunate accident happened when my parents and I had to care... when I had to care for them, which took a ton of time away from training the dog. The following fall, the dog was still an all-star. Everything I wanted, solid points and retrieving was great. Then my wife and I had a baby last March, which took more time away from the dog. This fall, the hunting has turned into a shit show.
I love that term.
I should have pre-read these. I would have put this one on the top of the pile. The dog is busting birds, still marks great, but hesitant to bring the birds back to me. He brings the birds, but he looks like he's saying his middle finger up to me the whole way. Sounds like he got a little bit early too much almost. And so 6 months old, he was wonderful. First year, he impressed him. Hasn't had a lot of stuff to him. Now he's 3 years old and all full of himself.
Yeah. Well,
kind of like that other dog a little
bit. I was just going to say, this, because of the circumstances,
right.
The dog didn't have all that natural talent, coupled with
right.
Formal training. So initially is running on great DNA, great genetics, lots of points.
So you got this dog from a good breeder.
Yeah. And then, but it wasn't ever really cemented in, and we just talked about this, what the dog wants to do and is driven to do naturally, coinciding with what we want it to do.
Right.
But that's not permanent necessarily. Right. So now this dog, this would have happened anyways with no training. It just would have been at 1.5 years instead of 3. Right.
Yeah.
So, but it's still not too late. Yeah. So, I mean, they're all... the steadiness problem, you just standard issue steadiness training. Whether the dog is, at 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, it's got to be done if you're going to get reliable staunchness on point.
Well, and here's something, and I may be reading between the lines here.
Yeah.
This fall has turned into a shit show. The dog is busting birds. He still marks great, but is very hesitant. So it sounds like he shot busted birds.
Sure.
Which
you should
just
Well,
I've done it. But,
most people do.
But he just also taught his dog, I shot a bird that you busted.
Yeah.
So he did reward the dog for shooting a busted bird.
Yeah, and that's...
Now, if it's truly busted or just a wild grouse flush is totally two different things.
Two totally different things. And a lot of people, it's not... It is black and white to me when I'm watching them, but it's... A lot of people... don't realize it's about the intent of the dog. The one you have to pass on is a pointing dog that intentionally runs in there and flushes
bird.
Yeah.
Like Woody. You know who I'm talking about, Paul.
So, but hey, if you're strolling around and your dog's hunting off to your left and you foot flush a bird, jumps up over here, no involvement with the dog, you're not doing anything negative by shooting at that bird. No. That's how most guys are going to hunt.
That's how I get most of my grouse.
There you go. Yeah. Once your dog didn't have a chance to bump.
Right. I walk too fast.
That's right.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah. But so yes, if it's the intent of the dog, so that could be. He could be rewarding that, but the fact of the matter is the training didn't take place. Right. It doesn't sound like.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he'd be able to correct the
parents
dog.
And the baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but 3 years old is not a problem to get it back on the.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No.
Cool. Well, see, there's some hope.
Well, he's got some summer homework coming up.
There's some hope for Corey.
Yeah.
All right, John writes, this is 3 parts, but not long. Hope your hunting season is well. Here are some questions. How do you fix a self-hunting dog? Dog hunts and finds bird, but ranges and hunts for himself. Does not turn when you and go with you and hunt within range. That's a true self-hunter. Mm-hmm. All right. I don't know if we want to... Yeah, let's take these 3 pieces apart because they're really not related. You could fix it. You might tell me they are related because you're a good trainer.
We'll find out. Okay, self-hunting.
Self-hunter.
Yeah, so the dog just takes off.
It's always self-hunting.
Yeah,
I had one of them.
Yeah.
If you told me I could hunt on this side of the kennel.
Anywhere in there, does it say how old the dog is?
It does not.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's a difference between youthful exuberance to explore the countryside and a true self-hunter. If it's a puppy that's just a little wild, with some training and some experience, and some puppies just run. They're not hunting yet. And once they start to apply, themselves to the task of hunting, and they realize this is a team sport, we need them to find the birds, they need us to shoot the birds. That's what makes this whole thing work.
Yeah.
Puppies don't always know, they never know that right out of the gate. And if he's got like a super athletic dog, and he hasn't done any training, then this may not be a true self-hunter.
Right.
If this is a dog that's had a fair amount of training and control, he said the dog doesn't turn.
Right.
Well, it's ultimately, if you've done your work, it's not up to the dog. This isn't something you vote on out there. This is
It's not a democracy?
No.
What are you saying? Is this a dictatorship?
So, but the problem is, if he has a true self-hunter, okay, if he has a true genetic self-hunter,
and you've seen dogs.
oh
like
yeah,
that.
he'd be best off to get another dog, because the best that he can come up with is he has to make him do it his way, and that gets tiresome. They're not fun to hunt with.
No,
you're hunting with a whistle clenched between your teeth and a collar transmitter in your hand. Yeah.
There he goes again.
Like every time he goes over the hill, you got to worry, is he going to take off on me again or something like that? But again, we don't have quite enough info for me to say that. But if it is a true self-hunter,
it's a pain in the ass.
It's a pain to live with, and it's very difficult to cure. I mean,
but if you're really not
try.
a true self-hunter,
yeah.
More foundational obedience, more come when called, more
turn,
not training in front of birds, just all field training, handling the dog.
Turn
Get
when I say to turn, come
then
when
say
called.
He's like,
whoa, collar condition the dog for all of those commands. Yeah, the big four, right? Yeah. Turn, come when called, whoa, and heel. Yeah, and if you can turn your dog, call your dog to you, stop it in its tracks, and have it walk alongside you. If you can do those four things consistently, off leash, in the field, now you got a steering wheel on the dog. He should be with you. But if you can't do that, now you're kind of at his mercy, and there's no there's no margin for error with dogs like that. It's all or nothing. They either got to be really well trained.
So you got to cement everything in.
Yeah.
All right, then how do you stop a dog? I have my version of this. How do you stop a dog from whining in the blind? Usually happens when the dog cannot see what's going on outside the blind. I know, you don't do a lot of blind hunting for ducks. I mean,
well, does this guy have two dogs?
He must have a pointer, and he must have a.
Because I'm assuming the self-hunter is not
in the blind with
dog. Right. And I'm assuming.
Or
he
maybe his friends all said, "You write the questions."
Or maybe or is he duck hunting with some renegade pointing dog? I don't know. I've never had much success curbing whiners. I mean, you can.
That's kind of genetic too, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, it is. 100% genetic.
People say he's excited about the birds. It's really.
He's wired, and I even see some of them that'll bark. Now, barking, you can use a bark collar to correct, right? But whining doesn't fire a bark collar.
Whining just drives you crazy.
Whining's worse than barking, I think. Yeah,
like you said, bark collar stop a bark.
Right, but I've never had much success curbing a bad whiner. Yeah. No, he just put some earplugs.
Well, hopefully these aren't both his dogs, because he might have to get two new dogs.
It'd be hilarious if this was the same dog.
Oh, and this might be his second dog.
Okay.
How do you fix a dog that shakes the birds on the retrieve, basically head shakes when running back to you on a retrieve, but does great on a hold and carry table? I've seen a lot of dogs. They just want the water out of their ears if it's a water retrieve.
Yeah, or they to shake their body, they got to shake their head first. Yeah. If he's coming out of the water, he's just shaking off.
Because he didn't say he's dropping the bird by shaking it. So
dropping the bird can be fixed. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But unless
I've seen a lot of dogs come out of the water and just never drop, but just give it a heck of a shake and then come up. I don't know if the water really bothers them in their ears, or if they just want to dry off.
Or you seen I don't know, maybe he's doing like the ragdoll thing with water could not be a factor. Yeah. Maybe just shaking that bird like crazy.
All right, next time you're going to rewrite that if it's a dry land retrieve or a wet retrieve. All right.
Self-hunting, whiner, bird shaker.
Sounds like me a little bit.
I don't know. But the shaking thing, if it's water, that's normal. Yeah. Just live with it. Right. If he's damaging the bird by shaking it back,
if it's not fit for the table, it's a whole
now you got to do the trained retrieve.
Yeah.
And everything.
Just picked up a new GSP pup from a well-known breeder that competes in field trials. The pup is 10 weeks old. I have tried the old wing on a string test to see if it has instinctive point. She won't point at the wing at all. Should I be concerned? I have only tried this on 2 occasions for a few minutes at a time. I don't want to try it anymore because I've been told it will create sight pointing. Well, that is what winging a string is, correct?
100% sight pointing. Yep.
So I've tried to wing a string. She won't point at the wing at all. Should I be concerned? There's the first question.
And he's tried it twice.
And he's
he's
probably seen a video, and you whip it around like a fly on a fly rod.
Sure. No, I'm real familiar. Yeah.
Jim Ripka was...
A lot of breeders will do that. Yeah.
That's how he got me to buy Queenie the first time.
It's 100% a sight point.
Right.
There's nothing detrimental about it in small doses at that young puppy age.
Yeah.
But I get people that call me, they're still doing it with like a 7 or 8 month old dog. Yeah, well, you don't want to do that.
Right.
A little bit every now and then with little 7 to maybe 12
Somebody
weeks,
comes over and you can say, look at my little pup.
Look at my dog point.
Look at him point that wing.
Yeah. But don't be concerned if you've only done it twice and the dog doesn't point yet. You know, just... I can't tell you the last time I did it. I mean, there's no real benefit. It's not going to make your dog a better pointing dog down the road on scent. No.
Do you think it indicates nose pointing?
Not at all. But it does. It can serve as kind of an overall indicator of how strong a pointing instinct is at an early age. You know, pointing doesn't always show itself right away in real strong. Sure, yeah. And that dog turned out just fine.
Yeah.
So do not be discouraged. You did not buy a dud. Well, maybe you did, but it's too early to determine that.
Well,
but because the dog doesn't point a wing in 2 times
at 10 weeks of age,
at 10 weeks of age means nothing.
These are like, this is like comparing. How old's your baby now?
6 months.
If you started talking to somebody with a 2-year-old toddler, you guys would be talking on 2 different things.
Yeah.
You can't expect out of a baby, and that's a baby.
Yeah.
Other than a dog is mobile.
Should I go home and complain to my wife she's not mowing the lawn yet?
Yeah, and she's not reading? How come she's not reading?
What's going on?
Yeah.
So time will tell on the pointing thing.
Right.
But don't even worry about it. Just put a fishing reel back on that rod.
Put a hook and line.
Put a hook
and a worm on it.
We use it for its intended
purpose.
purpose.
Take that 10-month-old puppy to PetSmart, go to the obedience class, and take the dog fishing.
There you go.
It'll meet a bunch of people down at the lake.
Perfect. There's another dog that'll be ready this spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glenn writes, I have a 3-year-old German Short-Hair Pointer. Very staunch, but only steady to wing. That's pretty good.
Yeah. But you know what? Before we go on, sorry to interrupt you. So I had a guy the other day call me with a young dog, and I mean a really young dog, like 6 or 7 months. And first dog, and he said, well, and, you know, I said, how's pup doing? He says, well, I've been hunting it this season, and he's steady to wing, and this. And I go, really? And I said, wow, that's pretty young to have that. He goes, well, yeah, he's been doing that ever since I put him on his first birds. Well, to him, he meant steady to wing was it held until the flush.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so
different.
It is different, you know. So a lot of people use that term "steady to wing." That it's almost like they think it's steady till the bird takes wing. No, steady to wing is they stay put even through the flight of the bird. Right.
Yeah,
so,
we have that breakdown. We have utility handlers. They're like, well, I didn't think the dog broke it. I'm like, so we call steady to flush, steady to wing, steady to shot, steady to fall.
Yeah.
Flush is just the action of your presence around the dog looking for the bird.
Yep.
Nothing's happened yet.
Yeah.
He's still pointing, more than likely. Steady to wing is the actual bird flying away.
Right.
Yeah. So I hope that's what he...
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Very staunch, but only steady to wing. When I plant pigeons for him, he is a bird finding machine. I ran a Quail Forever event, and he did great. I ran 3 Nastra events. The first event, he found 3 birds, worked them very well. The next 2 events, we went birdless. Runs hard, looks like he's hunting hard, but no love. These events are run in the high desert of California. The second event, weather was warm and dry. I assumed the conditions were the issue. The last event, weather, seemed perfect. He ran hard but found no birds. Any clue what might be up? Also, hunted Gamble's quail with him the last 2 weekends in the high desert, but a different location. He did seem to have a little issue with rabbits, which he quickly learned they fart electricity. I gotta pre-read these. They fart electricity. I haven't heard that one. And that was the end of that. In 4 days, he found 10 coveys. Why is he struggling in the Nastra field? That's a toughie.
Yeah. So, okay, so now the dog is probably steady to wing. Sounds like he's done. And he said, the dog finds pigeons good. Well, my experience has been when guys are planting pigeons for their dog, you make sure they find them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when he's going to these Nastra events,
right.
He's not the one who planted the birds. Some people, not even, subconsciously, you're steering your dog into those hand-planted birds. And
kind of making a milk route for him.
Yeah. And I don't know how much experience this dog is getting overall, other than these tests that he's taking. I mean, is that it?
Yeah.
Maybe the dog just kind of knows. And again, we're just assuming some things. Maybe he's only working that dog in that same place, and then he goes to these other events and the dog's struggling to find birds. Now, he mentioned scenting conditions. Yeah. Okay. That is one thing that I'm continually amazed at how many bird hunters don't really have a grip on. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys think, boy, you have a good day, it's because you have a good dog. You have a bad day, it's because the dog's no good. You wouldn't believe the factor that scenting conditions play in this game. Right. In the sport of hunting wild birds. I mean, I see plenty of days each season where the best dogs on my truck run around and struggle.
Right. And for people who may be new to the podcast or haven't listened to a bunch of... this is not to blow smoke up your ass, but you take your trained dogs and some other people's, you guide on wild birds in Montana for a month or 5 weeks. Yeah. Then you go to Arizona and guide. Yeah. So I mean, when you talk about scenting conditions, you're seeing that same dog that did something great one day and totally different the next day.
And that's what gives me that frame of reference that a lot of
some of us
hunters are missing there. Yeah. So in an average year between my guiding, my personal hunting, and off-season training on wild birds, I'm putting between 80 and 100 days a year on wild birds with the dogs. Yeah. Usually right in there somewhere. Mm-hmm. And a good example, the first half of the Montana season this year, really hot, bone dry, hadn't rained in forever. Yeah. Horrible scenting conditions. Boy, I would say if she's not the best dog on my truck, she's tied for the top spot. Depends on them. I got a couple. My 5-year-old female, Roxy. Okay. I had a morning with her the second week of the season where she had 4 opportunities to point birds and just couldn't close the deal on them. She kind of knew there were birds around, but you just couldn't quite get it done. Ended up with 2 of them were hun coveys. The other 2 were sharp-tailed contacts.
Like on another day that would have been a pointed cover.
Well, that's where I'm going with it. Okay. So now the guys that happened to be with me that morning have hunted with me a bunch and hunted with that dog quite a bit actually. Yeah. But let's just say a guy was with me that morning and saw that. Yeah. He easily could go home and go, that Roxy dog is just, I don't know about her, right?
Hope he doesn't take her out tomorrow.
Right. So it was, I think, 3 mornings later, she had, I think, 5 or 6 find hunt. Yeah. And most of her birds were pointed, they're 60 feet in front of her. Yeah. So that's 100% scenting conditions. Yeah. Same dog, 3 days later, right?
Different conditions.
Yeah. So that could have been a factor, but at a test scenario, the other dogs are your barometer, okay? Yeah. If the other dogs are going out there and having 2, 3, 4 finds, and I think they run a half hour in that, is it shoot to retrieve?
I don't know which one, 20 or a half, no longer
something like that. So if the other dogs are going out there and having 2, 3, 4 finds, and your dog is continuing to go birdless, something's up.
Something's up.
Something's up. Yeah. I can't claim to know what it is without knowing the dog. But something's not right. So in a test, the other dogs are your measuring stick.
And when he said he found 4 coveys of Gamble's quail, in 4 days he found 10 coveys.
Yeah.
If the bird found him, he should quit worrying about the dog.
Well, yeah. I mean,
because it could just be a one-off weekend.
is that? But it's all relative. You know, how many birds were around? Is that good, bad? I mean, you know what I mean?
Was there 100 coveys?
That's what I'm saying. You know, there are birds all over the place, and it took him 4 days to find 10.
I've never hunted Gamble's quail, so is it a good covey bird to hunt?
Yeah.
I mean, they sit, or is that one?
No, they'll run. They'll run on you, but you can
Yeah.
get some dog work on them.
Yeah.
You're going to see them one way or the other. You know, it may not always work in classic pointing dog work. Depends on the cover. But as far as a wild bird hunt, you know, especially this year, a lot of parts of the country are a little light on birds compared to some years. Yeah. So it's all relative.
Right.
You know, you can't say my dog only found this, and so is something wrong.
It is a good point when you said the barometer of the other dogs, and because you get to watch most of them, you see the leaderboard up there. So when I'm judging utility dogs, like 2 weeks ago in Virginia, you know, we see that dog that goes out, and I'd say an average utility dog we put out 5 birds, they find 3. Once in a while they get more, but you know. And when you do get that dog after 20 minutes hasn't found a bird, we do start to like, what is this dog doing different? Because now we know the setting conditions didn't change. Yeah. Now we're like, and it does make us wonder, like, is this dog really interested in hunting? Do we start wondering about his nose? Because we have use of nose on our card, but not quality of nose. Yeah. You know. So we're like, well, I didn't see the dog use the nose. Why does that one dog not find it? Yeah. So I'll use that sometimes as a barometer. Like, boy, every dog in this, or every puppy in this test found at least 2. Yeah. Why is this puppy going 20 minutes without finding one? I got 5 birds out in this little field. Yeah. You know, that's really telling you something. It is. And now a lot of these tests are in the off season, right? And so there is a difference in the conditions a dog's working in, say at 3 in the afternoon than 8:30 in the morning. Oh, yeah. Right, sure. Moisture, temperature, and all that. But everything else being equal, you know, if it's reasonably the same conditions. Yeah. We try to set it up for success, and when we don't see it, Sure. I don't think he's got anything to worry. I'm going to give him a pass on that one. All right. Zach writes, Ron, got my first dog a few years back. He was a rescue. We were told he was a wire-haired pointing Griffon, although we knew he was not. This will be a good one. I didn't pre-read this one either. He did seem to be mostly a sporting breed, which was important to me as I was just getting into bird hunting after finishing my football career in college. I followed Tom Dawkins' retriever training with him. And he's got technically a pointing dog, but I mean, I'm not sure how that ties in. Followed Tom Dawkins' retrieving training with him, and he has been a great companion in the field, northern Minnesota grouse, North Dakota pheasants, working as a flusher. Okay, this is why he said he's definitely not a pointing Griffon. Yeah. Okay. Could be a flushing Griffon. Apparently he is a flushing Griffon. A few months back, I decided to get him genetically tested. He turned out to be first generation mix of lab and German wire hair. Well, now what have we got here? Here's the question. After knowing he has some pointing breed in him, I almost feel guilty not having seen if he has the instincts to point birds. My question for you, is it worth the time to explore the possibility of these traits? Well, I've never anybody asked me this. Short answer. No. Okay. Well, he's been hunting. He's been hunting, and the dog's not shown any pointing. So why would you fight the genetic, if flow of the dog? You either have to dye the hair. If your mom had red hair and your daughter's gonna have red hair, you're gonna have to be happy with a red-headed child. Something, Yeah. So had he not, hunted the dog yet, I'd say you expose it to birds and see which way the dog wants to hunt, and don't fight the flow of what the dog wants to do. If he's shown, the tendency to want to flush his game, then go with it. Train him and hunt him as a flusher. Yeah. If he wants to, but he might think that, we teach dogs to point. Right. That's genetics. We teach steadiness and all that. But sounds like if he's been hunting grouse and pheasants, he would know by now if that dog was carrying much pointing instinct. Right. There's probably some pointing labs that have more pointing instinct apparently right now. Oh boy, don't get me going. I know we're not going to go down that. No, get me in trouble. We're down to 3. All right. But anyway, he just said, I'd love to know your thoughts. That thought was no. Let it be. You got it be, You got a good upland flushing dog. He likes to retrieve. I will say, Zach, do me a favor. Send me a picture of this dog. I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah, lab. Why? Maybe he's going to start a new thing. What would you call it? I don't know.
I don't. It doesn't have a labradoodle ring to it.
No.
See, labradoodles. They stole the market on silly names.
I don't know. That's getting carried away.
All right. But a lot of young ones. Oh, 10 months. I thought it was 10 weeks.
10 months.
Blaine writes, I'm Blaine. I have a 10-month-old lab. For some reason, I can get her. Hey, let me start this over. Reset. Beep, beep, beep. I'm Blaine. That's what's problem. He wrote it like I write. Terrible writer. I'm Blaine. I have a 10-month-old lab, and for some reason, I can heel her and walk for miles off leash. As soon as I put the leash on her, she pulls like a sled dog and doesn't listen. What did I do wrong?
He didn't teach his dog to heel on a leash.
Oh.
Yeah, but what he's fighting is something called the opposition reflex, and all dogs have that.
Okay.
And that's their tendency to resist pressure with pressure in the opposite direction. So when he's got that dog on a leash, and the dog draws the slack out of that leash to where it's tension, the dog's feeling pressure on that leash from behind. Their natural response is to lean into it with pressure in the opposite direction. Right. Now, obviously, the dog knows what heel means if he indeed can
heel that
dog for miles off leash.
In our highest level test, we only ask 100 yards off leash heel.
I think he was just illustrating a point.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm sure what he's got is a dog that likes walking with him, obviously.
Yeah, but he's
just shocked at the point that when he puts a leash on him, he's got no...
Yeah.
So what'd you call it? Opposition?
It's called the opposition reflex. And
reflex.
Yeah, so what he needs to do is, tension on the leash is your enemy. Because that's what's going to trigger that in the dog and cause him to pull.
Right.
So he needs to learn how to walk that dog on a slack lead, and then when the dog begins to drift ahead or out to the side, the correction is not a slow pull, it's just a quick snap of a leash, a quick sharp tug. So it should just dunk and then go right back to slack. And if his dog truly knows heel, then it should just take that little quick, sharp tug on the lead as the correction for drifting ahead or out to the side, but then you're right back to a slack leash. But yeah, tension on your leash is always going to cause pulling in the dog.
It's like all the people we see walking down the street with their dog. The leash must be petrified because the leash is always straight.
Yeah.
Dog's happy.
Yeah, pulling them around, and now people try these things on the muzzle, and then they got these chest harnesses and all this stuff, and it's all a Band-Aid, to try and say, okay, well, I put this on and my dog doesn't pull. You got to train your dog, and all of that stuff.
That's like tying your kid's shoelaces together so he doesn't run.
So he doesn't run? Sure.
As soon as he figures out how to untie the shoelaces, he's going to run.
Yeah, so his leash technique is really all he needs to work on, and he should be able to heel that dog on leash, because here's the real reason that it's important. There are situations that, he very well may be able to heel his dog off leash for miles and miles, but if he's in a situation where perhaps if the dog did disobey and break heel and he's off leash, does he have... I don't care how well trained a dog is, there is a threshold there. Yeah. Right? That's going to cause them to not listen to
slow running rabbit.
Something.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
A mama robin that flies just in front of him to keep it away from the nest.
Yeah, and so if he's in a situation where he's near a road or anything else potentially dangerous, we want a leash on that dog.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I don't care how well.
If you're out in the wilderness, walk your dog off a leash. Sure. If he's good.
Sure.
If not, leash it. And this is actually the last one, and actually it says it's not a question, but it is a question, but it's not a training question. I like the show. It really helped me get started into upland hunting. Got my first grouse this October. Well, congratulations, Anthony.
Nice.
You're probably tied with me. If it's at one. Got a question that doesn't really pertain to training, but maybe you or Justin can help me. I'm looking for another dog and having a hard time finding a breeder near me. Doesn't always mean you're going to find one near you. How would you suggest finding reputable breeders?
That's a good question. Where does he live? What does it say?
Well, his email address is Bell South. So
Well, and he shot a grouse, so we're gonna assume it was a rough grouse.
North of the Mason-Dixon line.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So Chase.
Probably this side of the Mississippi.
Oh, he even sent me a picture of the grouse and the dog. But he wants another dog.
Let me see.
So yeah, he's a northern hunter. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
He's got a pointer, huh?
looks like it. Look at a pointer
looks
pup.
like a pointer pup. Yeah.
Is there or very poorly marked Moosterlander.
Short coat.
Or Drink Patrichon.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a good thing to close it on. When you're looking for a suggestion for reputable breeders, what's maybe just some red flags that steer you away from unreputable breeders? I mean,
Don't buy a puppy from a breeder that doesn't hunt. I don't care what their bloodlines are. Mm-hmm. Even within the best bloodlines, you still need somebody out there wearing out some boots, sifting and sorting which dogs they breed and which dogs they don't.
yeah.
And it looks like it looks like he is a grouse hunter now.
Yeah. I are one.
Yeah, you got it. Do you remember your first grouse?
I do. I shot it with Jeff Peterman when I moved up to Michigan. Yeah.
I remember mine. Of course, I think everybody does,
Just like a first girlfriend.
Yeah. It took a long time before I actually hit one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got those combination shots that you don't know if you actually got it. So then if you hunt with another person.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember the first time I dropped one.
Yeah. So yeah, he is officially a grouse hunter now, and that dog looked pretty young in the picture too. So he's really hooked. He's already thinking about a second dog.
Second dog.
Yeah. So I would recommend that he look to other grouse hunters.
Yeah.
And that looked like a pointer puppy to me. Yeah. So maybe he wants to stay there. Maybe he wants to add something different to his lineup. That's his first decision is what breed do you want?
Yeah.
And then look to other grouse hunters.
Yeah.
And just kind of go. I'm not, as you know, I'm not really much of a computer guy, but really, yeah. But I know there's this whole, network of different, bird hunters out there that really can kind of steer people the right. You got to be really careful.
No, there's a lot of groups, but you can get into the goofy group too.
Yeah, and just,
how about like anything else? Okay, I think that's 100% spot on.
Yeah,
because there are kennels out there that really don't hunt.
Just breeding dogs,
and they're breeding. And like I said, you could get a great dog from them.
Yeah,
my first dog already came from a breeder that didn't hunt. There's no wild birds where they were, and I know where they were. They weren't hunting the dogs. They might have trained them a little bit. Mm-hmm. No hunting.
Yeah.
Got lucky. Okay. But, so if that guy's an avid hunter, you probably got a better than average chance of getting a decent dog.
Yeah.
If he's honest with himself.
Mm-hmm.
Because not everybody's got, when you walk in, state-of-the-art kennel, heated floors or, But then you've been down south, you've been up north, you've been all over the country with dogs.
That really has no bearing on the quality of the pup that you're getting.
So, but what I'm getting at is just because somebody doesn't have like the best setup, it could be
they could have phenomenal dogs. Yeah,
and you might not want to take your girlfriend or wife there to go pick up the puppy.
She'll want to bring them all home just to rescue them from that place.
You've been there before?
There's a lot of places like that. Yeah.
So that's not the barometer either. But the hunting is one, I guess, that's.
Yeah. And I really, I'm fortunate because I've been in this so long, I'm able, for the most part, to buy dogs that, I knew their mama, I knew their daddy, or I know the person really well.
Right.
And I know that, they're breeding dogs for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Not to turn out 3 litters. And not that, I mean, there's great breeders who do breed a bunch of dogs and they're doing it right.
Right.
And once you find that's the big thing, the right person, that you go, okay, this guy does the same kind of hunting with these dogs as I do. Yeah. And he also likes the same things in a dog that I do.
Well, that could lead to say, does this breeder have the time to spend some time with you?
Yeah.
Just come on over. If he drinks a beer, drink a beer with him. If he spend some time with him and his dogs.
Yeah,
Ask
I
you
like
to take him out.
Yeah. And
If he doesn't have the time for you,
yeah.
it may be a great dog too, but you might need to lean back on that breeder. And if he doesn't have the time for you,
Yeah, well, you want to spend, you want to spend as much time as you can. Or a lot of people will come well recommended from,
Well,
2 or 3 other people. Say, yeah, I've
you-
gotten really nice pups from them before. And then
Yeah.
you can, factor that in too. And I like to not just see what a dog does in the field. But I like to spend some time and just know how they are as a dog, because there's some dogs that are really good bird dogs, but there's other things about that dog that are not real endearing.
if they had thumbs, they'd use a Sharpie marker and graffiti the kennels.
Yeah, or they're just, there's a whole list of things that, because for every hour that you spend hunting with a dog, look at all the other hours you
gotta
spend
spend
with
time
that
with
dog.
it.
So all that other stuff is important too.
Yeah.
Having that nice temperament. And I always look for a dog that, even if you didn't hunt with that dog, you would just enjoy having him.
Right.
As a dog.
That's a good point.
Yeah, you want to try. You're never going to get everything you want in one dog.
And it's not that we won't drag this too long,
That's
but I've told people when you go to the kennel, sometimes you'll hear the person say, well, you can't come when the puppies are young. The bitches doesn't like visitors. Or, and it's very often that the male could be off-site, obviously.
Sure.
That happens quite a bit.
Sure.
But personally, I've never told somebody they couldn't come and look at the puppies with the mom around. Now, if I thought there was an issue, I would take mom away from the puppies, put them in the kennel, and let the person see the puppies. That always makes me feel like somebody doesn't want you to see something about this dog for some reason.
Could be.
You know? I mean, that's just me. you know?
And I understand.
It just throws a red flag for me.
Yeah, but as long as you're reasonable as a puppy buyer. And so let's say you have 8 puppies in a litter.
Right.
Okay. Well, you don't want every new owner that's getting a pup from this litter coming out every once a week,
right?
Individually.
Nobody's got the time.
Nobody's got time for that, right? So they need to understand,
right. But I'm even more Well, I did talk about not coming to see the bitch if the puppies, but that same person, a lot of these people, they'll bend over backwards for you, and I always feel good about that.
Yeah.
If that breeder, if you get this sense that, man, I wish he was selling appliances at Sears, I'd go buy one from him. Just not a salesman, just if you just get this, if you get any red flag talking to him on a phone, that to me, and I just because I deal with a bunch of sloppy salesmen, and when I hear a couple things, when somebody says it's a vanilla job, it's a pure vanilla round, it's a piece of cake. I'm like, this job sucks.
Sure.
So I go a lot by when I talk to somebody on the phone. Yeah. That's my piece of advice for you.
And I always too, I shy away from any breeder who is trying to compensate for any weaknesses in the mom with the sire, right? And that's faulty logic, okay? So mom is weak in this and weak in this, so I'm going to breed to a male who's good in this and good in this. Yeah. Okay, well, that's not how it usually works. It's not like you can breed A to C and get a litter of B's.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Right.
So if mom is truly weak in this and this, and I'm mainly worried about performance qualities here and temperament and health issues, those are more important than cosmetic things, perfect bites or tail posture or whatever. Well, then the reality is she shouldn't be bred. Yeah, that's the reality.
So if somebody kind of comes right out and tells you that, she's a good dog, but what I did is I bred her to this male, and he throws out these. He is a 4-time blah 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 blah.
Right.
Like I want to hear how good your dog is too.
I place at least as much in the female as I do the male, if not more.
The guys that when I started out in NAB that were all in the VDD club when they got here in the 70s, all they followed was the mother line of the dog.
Yep.
That was what they paid the most attention to.
Yeah.
And if you followed my 3 daughters, you will understand that logic.
Yeah.
The mother line Came through.
Yeah, I own a really, really nice young dog right now. It's going to be the next superstar, probably, a setter. And that she is from a very, very strong female line. I've seen it this is the third generation now.
Yeah.
And the females in that line, there's something to it. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
And my favorite question to ask somebody too is if you're talking about the parents, right?
Right.
Okay, so I just talked about, performance weaknesses and maybe you shouldn't breed that dog. But we all know no dog is perfect.
Right.
No dog is great at everything.
Right.
And so I always ask people when I'm asking about a dog is if you could change one thing about this dog, what would it be?
Oh.
Yeah.
Good question.
And if the answer is nothing, she's perfect, have a good day. I'm done. Yeah, because every dog, you should be able to answer that question.
Yeah.
Right? There should be something about that dog that you go, I wish he was just a little bit better.
You're right.
So
that's
that's an honesty test for me.
Yeah.
And it's also a test of what kind of dog person, how thoroughly do they know their dog?
Is he wearing rose-colored glasses all day?
Yeah.
Or just on this one phone call?
Yeah, I could walk you through these kennels right now, and I could go right down the line, and I could tell you something about each and every dog that I wish was a little better.
Right.
Yeah. So
doesn't mean it's a total blank out fault.
No.
You can just be honest, say, it could do this better.
Sure.
This could do this better.
Yep.
You can surcharge it, whatever.
Yeah.
I like that.
There's all kinds of things. So that's a great question to ask people, and just kind of see if you could change one thing about this dog, what would it be? And see what happens.
I love it.
There you go.
All right. That's it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to go have a beer.